We're here today with Kim Howerton from the Ketonist. She is the Ketonist on Instagram, and you can go to theketonist.com or kimhowerton.com will also work. So I'm so happy you're here with us. She's an expert on keto, and she's actually been dipping her toe in the carnivore pool of fatty grease. So we're excited that she's here, and she's going to share her experience with us. She is good buddies with Dr. Barry, and I actually met her when I had breakfast brunchy thing at a place here in Nashville with Dr. Barry. So, and she's actually from the Bay Area, which I'm lived in the Bay Area for 10 years. So we had a lot in common right away, and it was exciting to get to talk to her. So we are excited that she's here today and going to share her experience and expertise. Welcome, Kim.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be fun. So this is the only way I get to talk to people. People don't know that, when you work from home, you are actually alone all the time.
Yeah, generally alone, generally in pajamas.
Yes. Oh, I'm only dressed from the waist up now. No, I have on my pajamas, but this is, my day, not my normal look. So you have been doing keto for a really long time, right?
Yeah, I've been doing keto for over 3 years at this point.
And you're really, really good at like baked goods and things like that, huh?
I know. Yeah. So I was a baker before keto, like not by trade, but it was a hobby. And I'd actually worked in catering and different things at various times in my life, and loved cooking, especially baking, and definitely called myself a foodie, which is it's a term in the Bay Area that you can't throw a artisanal potato without hitting one. But I realized at some point that, I was not in a good way with food, and I had to make some shifts.
And you also have Hashimotos, right?
I actually have unspecified thyroiditis. They believe it's Hashimoto's, but I don't show up with antibodies. And there's a very small percentage of the population that they think has Hashimoto's but don't have antibodies. So I tend to say I just have hypothyroidism.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you have any other autoimmune symptoms and stuff?
I do. So but the problem is I'm sort of one of those like head scratcher cases for a lot of doctors. We can't quite figure out what the autoimmune condition that I have is, but I have high inflammation levels but only specific markers. Like it's very indicative of some type of autoimmune inflammatory state, but it's unspecified.
Well, I mean, I feel like, that's our culture to put a name on everything, but I feel like most people have something that they're just not attributing to. Like a lot of people have, eczema, psoriasis, or, arthritis, and they don't think of it as an autoimmune thing, but it really probably is, So we're so ingrained to think of, our diagnosis and this is an identity, and then we separate the body into 57,000 parts and say none of them are connected,
Right. Like this doctor will only look at your lipids, and this doctor will only look at your hormones, and it's very segmented.
And it was you suffered a lot with depression growing up and stuff, right?
I did. So I had my first serious bout of depression when I was 9. And I had I was sort of either depressed or in sort of what one would call a dysthymic state, which is sort of like kind of like the equivalent of walking pneumonia. Like you're functional, but you just can't get out of the hole on a lot of levels. And pretty much my whole life, with some exceptions. So I would have sort of these peaks and valleys and peaks and valleys, and to the point where they were like, maybe she's bipolar because she has, but I was like, no, in the peak, I just feel sort of okay. And over time, so that was from the time I was 9. And it wasn't until I was in my mid 30s that I was diagnosed with the hypothyroidism. And I also went keto simultaneously. And those two things together, treating the hypothyroidism and changing the way that I ate, alleviated probably about 90% of the symptoms.
Amazing.
Amazing. And, it was always a head scratcher. Like, no antidepressant ever helped me. And, it's sort of like, if you've got like a wound that needs stitches and you just keep slapping a Band-Aid on it, why isn't it healing? It's like, yeah, that's why it's not healing.
Well, that must have been, amazing to feel better and know that, your nutrition was making a difference.
Yeah. And I think the supplemental thyroid hormone helped a lot as well. So it's not just the nutrition, I have to say, but the nutrition, if either one of those gets wonky at all, I'm not doing great.
Yeah, same thing for me. When I took it in 2 weeks, I was like a different person, and I was already sort of gluten-free and stuff at that time. So yeah, if I had just kept being, kind of paleo-ish, I would have not probably, it wasn't enough. I think people kind of, there's this whole thing, and tell me what you think, is I got to get off my thyroid medication. It's like,
yeah, so many people really want to get off, and I get it. Like, I hate taking medicine. The only medicine I don't hate taking is my thyroid medicine.
I have tried to go off of it, and I actually went on a vacation for a month, and I was out of the country, and I thought, well, I'm going somewhere warm and sunny. I'm going to try. I'm just not going to take it. I think I took it with me, but I just didn't take it because I was like, well, let's see, maybe I'm healed, and this was about a year ago or so, maybe 2 years ago. And within about 6 weeks, like, my elbows were like throbbing, and I felt, and my husband had to drive me down to like get a refill. I was like, I can't even drive to the pharmacy. Like, you have to take me. It was downtown, so it was a little more like, it wasn't just like up the corner, but I was like, why don't you just take me and you just stay in the car and I can walk in, but I don't think I can go drive and get it and then all that, So, it comes back really fast if you don't. I don't know why people want to get off of it so bad. It's not bad for you. It's not, some people are like, well, you're supporting big pharma. And I'm like, I don't care. Like,
yeah.
You have the experience with the the antidepressants and stuff. I think that's a whole different, ball game.
Yeah, I've taken, I haven't in a couple decades, but through college, and slightly after, I took like a ton of different types, and all they either, if the best I could hope for is they did nothing. But more often they caused significant weight gain, made me feel weird. One caused a rash. Like, it was just not, the weight gain was probably the worst, because that was like, I gained like 40 pounds in like 8 weeks. It was intense. So.
Which, and don't you always wonder, like, was I hypothyroid then? Do you wonder that? Like, I guess you were, but like, the sudden weight gain also, I know of course it can happen with pharmaceuticals, but that happened to me once. I gained 30 pounds in like a month, and I was like, what in the heck? And then I never, of course, it's been slow to come off, but
it's a lot easier for some of us to put it on than to take it off.
Oh yeah. Well, that's so interesting. And So what do you think, like, so just tell us a little bit more about, the shift from having depression and then being on keto, and
Sure.
then finally, like, how you decided to try carnivore.
Okay, so I hit, let's see, I hit my mid 30s, was just, let me go back. I'm like, where do I start? So I kind of was very unhappy with being overweight for most of my life. Sort of what had ended up happening was right around the time I was 10, so a little bit after the depression. Partially, I think because one of the ways I dealt with the depression as a kid was I ate. Became a binge eater, and so the binge eating led to weight gain, and then I spent pretty much my entire childhood chubby. It was funny, like at the time I thought I was enormous, and I mean it may just be the way that society is changing. Comparatively speaking to a lot of kids I see these days, I was just bigger, but I was over the weight I wanted to be, and it was a constant source of stress and discussion and fat camps, and it was a thing. And so
Maybe we were separated at birth. Twins.
Yeah, there you go. So I got into my adulthood actually, and at some point I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna love myself. I'm gonna stop, because it was like, this isn't working. And I actually became a life coach. I like, a lot of things were going well, but under the surface, the depression issues were still there, the body issues were still there. I had stopped sort of just being bigger and started like accelerated weight gain. It was like all these things, and I had to at some point face the facts. And so this is what the ketonist is about. It's a combination of the word keto and hedonist. So I one day was like, look, can you really call yourself a hedonist? I'd always been like, oh, I just like things. I like food, and I like this, and I like that. Can you really be a hedonist if you don't feel good? Like, is a life lived about pleasure, about living a pleasurable life, or is it about really addiction, like covering up how bad you feel by, hitting the dopamine sensors? And I realized I'd kind of been living a bit of a fraud, and I had to get my act together. And I found keto, and because I'd done low carb stuff in the past, I understood how it worked, and I believed in it, like from a physiological perspective, but it never quite clicked for me until I went keto. And then once I kind of figured out, because this was before keto was a thing, or at least at the early stages. And so once I figured out how to do it properly and not do it the way that like bodybuilders did it, and this kind of thing, everything just worked. Like, I felt better, I was less inflamed, I started losing weight naturally, like all these really awesome things started to happen. And so my road to keto was really about sort of saving my life. Like, my whole life I'd wanted to look better, and I kind of hit a point where, yeah, sure, of course, I'm as vain as the next girl. I wanted to look like I wanted to look, but ultimately I hit a wall where I was realizing that I was going to eat myself to death, probably.
Wow. And so that was about when you're about 35 or so?
35-ish, yeah. Wait, no. Well, the journey started when I was about 35 in terms of like realizing I needed to turn things around, maybe 36. But it wasn't really until I hit 40 that I was about to hit 40 that I went fully keto, it's kind of, it's a journey. But yeah, 40 was late 39 was when I started keto for reals.
Like more strictly and like.
Yeah, it's like it all blurs together at a point. When I was 35 is when I really dove into low carb, and then I sort of bumped along struggling for a couple years, because just low carb wasn't quite what I needed. I needed to go fully keto.
And I mean, now when you were keto, you lost some weight. Like, what was your highest weight, if you want to say?
I was 263, I think.
Wow.
And then when I went keto over, and it was like, it was going that way. It was going up. It was just kind of consistently high. So that was my highest weight. And then I bounced up and down a little bit. I lost actually quite a bit of weight doing low carb, but it didn't really stick and it was hard. And I regained almost all of it. And then I went keto. And since I went keto, I got under 200 pounds for the first time in my adult life.
Wow.
It was big. And then, yeah. And then, so my journey, so there are a few bumps along the way, but, keto's the first thing as an adult. Like literally the last time I had seen a 1 as the start of my weight number was in college. Early.
Yeah. So then now, I mean, you sound like keto really worked for you. Like, I feel like keto helped me control my blood sugar and stuff like that for the first time, but I always got way headed overboard with the treats and the bombs, and I had a hard time, and I've never really lost weight. I felt like it did keep me from going back to my highest weight. And it was like a method of control, but it really didn't. And it helped my thyroid too, but it wasn't like this magic bullet for me, except that I felt good, but
Right.
that does, like we said before our call, we said, that doesn't count for anything, but
I felt good, but whatever. What about my pain side?
skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, in a lot of ways, I have to say, I feel like keto worked well for me, but after I'd lost about 75 pounds, there was just a point, well, it started to slow down, which I expected, but then I reached a point where my weight loss was completely stalled. No, and then I went into the crazy things. Then I was like, well, what about these macros? Well, what about these macros? Well, what about these macros? And so I went on like this journey over the course of a year of just trying all sorts of different keto things to try and move the needle.
like more fat, less protein,
More fat, less fat, high protein, low, I kind of went like, I'd always done total carbs. I was like, I don't have any reason this should work. Let's try net. I just went through like all the different experiments to see, what might be going on, and nothing really moved the needle. I even did Ted Naiman's 3-to-1 protocol. Have you heard that one?
I mean, I never did that, but I mean, I think I did that, and it's called Weight Watchers.
Well, it's like 3 times the protein grams as fat grams based on your lean body mass. So I was eating 165 grams of protein and 55 or less grams of fat.
You mean choking it down?
So, but like at that, and the only way to eat that pretty much was like, I would like pour a bowl of Rao's pasta sauce so I could dip the boneless, skinless chicken because they were like gonna die. Anyway, the issue I had was that my brain broke again. So that was not fun. So I got to about week 3 of it, and I like fell into a deep, dark depression. And it made me realize that part of what had been very helpful in going keto was the higher fat, allowing me, because I hear this from a lot of people with depression issues, that a certain amount of fat really does make their brain function better.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know immediately when I have a chicken breast, I get depressed. So
So I'm not, anti-chicken, but it should be a small part of your diet. Anyway, yeah, it's chicken breast in moderation.
chicken breast with a side of, Kerrygold.
Right. But then I'd sort of started, and then I dabbled with carnivore starting a year ago. So last summer, I did a carnivore experiment for a month and lost 10 pounds and was really thrilled about it. And then stopped for some inexplicable reason. And then this past year, I had a couple of health issues, ended up with appendicitis. You know, there's just all this stuff. Had kind of a stressful, the appendicitis was no biggie, but, you know, ended up like things got a little derailed in my life. One of the nice things is that keto's just an easy baseline. It's not something I feel like I have to like, you know, it's never hard to be keto for me. But then I wrote a cookbook. During the writing of the cookbook, you're making a ton of recipes every day to take photographs of. So I did that, and by the end of the cookbook process, found that I'd put on like 10 pounds.
Okay.
Because you're tasting things all day long, and fasting had been sort of part of my routine, you know, time-restricted eating all day, apparently not something my body was appreciating. And so now I'm 10 pounds up from where I was when I stalled out on keto.
Okay.
Thrilling, let me just say. It does amazing things for your self-confidence. You know, but ultimately I have been started to look at this experience, and it's very resistant to coming off. So to honestly answer your question, why I restarted carnivore recently was because, well, a couple of reasons, but really honestly, primarily because I was hoping I would have the experience again where weight just fell off.
Now if you did total carbs, I mean, your carbs were so low already. Like, why do you think it makes any difference if you do carnivore or keto? Like, I'm just wondering.
Well, I mean, I think there are different theories on that. You know, some people in the carnivore space don't necessarily think it's all just about the carbs, but that it's also about reactions we have to plant matter. So certainly I know Amber O'Hearn is a friend of mine. You know Amber? You know,
I mean, I never met her, but
you know who Amber is, I should say. Yeah. Okay, so Amber is kind of like old school carnivore. She's been carnivore for over a decade. And for her, she went keto to lose weight. She went carnivore to lose weight. When she went carnivore, for people that don't know her story, when she went carnivore, she found it put her bipolar into remission. So now she stays carnivore to manage her mood and so for her, even if she has a small amount of vegetable matter, it causes issues for her. You know, not metabolically, you know, doesn't get to that level, but for her brain. And so there are quite a few people. I think this was more old school, like original carnivores, the OGs, where they were like, it's because you have a reaction to the plants and you have to stop having the reaction. And when you stop having the reaction, your body can drift to the right weight set point that your body is meant to be at. Then
I think also it's that plants can block absorption, you know, of certain things, and maybe we're able to absorb things better, or you know, the leaky gut heals, and then, you know,
right,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so for me, because even on keto, I continue to show these sort of autoimmune expressing conditions and higher inflammation in my blood work. You know, I thought seriously, like, okay, there must be a component here that I need to heal, and carnivore is going to be my best option to remove some of these things from my, you know, from my body, from my diet. And so I went back to carnivore August 1. The hard part is I continue to I coach and I teach keto, and I am a recipe creator. So there have been like 3 times I've had to taste a recipe, and so my thought is like, well, do I need, it's like how 100% is 100%. And so, it's one of those things where it is an ever evolving journey for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think, and also, going back to like Amber O'Hearn or Michaela Peterson, it's like, how bad is what happens if you have a bite of this or that? Like, and it sounds like for you and also for me, like if I have a bite of this or that, it's not. Now, if I ate, a sheet cake, I probably would be sick, but, I mean, I don't ever eat gluten, but, if I decide I want to have a halo top because I'm having like, my PMS or something, like I'm not going to jump off a bridge because, I did that or something, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things is this is the first time I've managed to really give up dairy in this round. The first time, like, so I'm doing dairy free with the exception of maybe a little ghee here and there. And, something, I'm not going to freak out if something's cooked with a little butter, but other than that, like I'm not doing any cream in my coffee. I'm not doing any cheese. And that makes me sad because I like dairy. Because I was like, okay, well, if I really have these, if it's an autoimmune related thing, most likely there's a dairy component. But I've always said, I've never been the person that my stomach never gets upset from dairy. I never have any issues. And I've always sort of been like, I think it'd be easier to give up dairy if it made you sick. Like,
oh, yeah.
Obviously sick. I mean, I think it's making me more like slow poison than fast acting poison.
Oh, well, I mean, my reaction to dairy is just complete, like, I cannot stop eating it. Like, yeah. Once I have one, like, mozzarella cheese stick, like, it's over. I mean, I'm eating, like, cheese for the rest of the day until, and then, sometimes that happens, and I'll just go, like, I can usually go for, I mean, that's kind of my stress food is cheese. So it's like, and then same thing, I have to cut it out for just completely, like there's no bites, there's no little bits of cheese, and same with the heavy cream. Oh my gosh, the heavy cream is my favorite thing on earth. So I just have to not have it at all. What I do is like put some ghee in my coffee and then I put it in the blender and then like make a thing. Seems like the ghee doesn't bother me. It doesn't make that triggering like, okay, now I'm gonna. But I definitely, as soon as I start eating dairy, I'm just like expanding and bloating and, it's like a weight gain.
Yeah, I think I do get puffy from it, but it's super easy when you work, like we were talking about earlier, right? When you work at home alone in your pajamas, do you really care if you're a little puffy that day? Not until you have to do a live.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, it's a very tricky, and people are so, some people are so pro cheese on carnivore and some people are so anti cheese or, cream. And but since, we came into this from keto and, we know our bodies, it's not our first rodeo, it's like, we know like what we can handle, what we can't handle and that kind of thing. So I think if somebody's never taken dairy, they should definitely take it out and see, especially if they're stalled out and stuff. So how's carnivore been going for you this time?
It's been a little more challenging this time. I had the expectation that it would be like last time where the weight just fell off, and it hasn't. And that is making me irritated. And I kind of have to keep reminding myself it's not all about a number on a scale or, but it is frustrating because, this is an important topic to me and I want to see progress made just because that feels good. And but it's a good reminder for me that the scale and your pant size are not like the only marker, because it's really easy for me to get really myopic and just focus on that and forget about the fact that I'm living a functional life. I feel pretty good. I can get out of bed. I can do a morning phone call instead of having to do it in the afternoon because I just can't deal with life yet. You know, this is a big change from the way I functioned before I went keto and before I went carnivore. And so I'm definitely, just I'm just taking it one day at a time. I really do feel better carnivore. Now, at various times, I've done what I call an animal dominant diet, which is 99% carnivore, but maybe a Zevia or maybe I don't worry about spices or, like a lettuce leaf or whatever. That was kind of the way I was ketoing for a long time. And I think for some people that level is fine. And I'm just testing out if I have to go full bore 100%.
Like no spices.
No, nothing but salt and meat and that kind of thing. Even eggs I'm looking at as a possible issue. And so you kind of have to consider yourself, if you're somebody that isn't seeing everything you want to see, you really have to kind of become an explorer in your own health journey and take it as a exploration and not as failure. And so I'm considering it a life lesson.
It's awesome. So tell us what does your typical day of eating look like?
So I was until August definitely. Oh, and the first half of August, dairy was still in. So it's only been about a month that I've been dairy free. So at this point, what I've worked out is that I have this concoction it's like a very watered down iced Americano. So I'll do a shot of espresso in a big glass of ice water, and that's what I start my day with. And so I'm sure, it's very weak, but I use very nice coffee that's very smooth. I use like a Illy espresso. And so I'll just sip on that throughout the day. It's sort of also replaced like flavored seltzers and Zevias and things like that. It kind of is, I like it. So the first half of the day, I'll just have an iced, watered down Americano. Then midday, I'll have lunch, and lunch will usually look like either a ribeye or a bunless burger. And then for dinner, it'll be kind of more of the same. A couple of times I've grabbed like a rotisserie chicken from a place that I know just uses salt. And so it doesn't have anything else in it when I've been, in a hurry. A few times I have pork, and I've been thinking maybe I'll eliminate chicken and pork. I don't know, but I've had like a copa steak, which is basically like a very high fat pork chop. I'm sure a butcher will kill me for that explanation, but that's what it seems like to me. I had some pork belly. Every once in a while, I'll throw a little bacon in for interest. But so generally speaking, I do better and I feel better with a big hunk of meat for lunch, and then dinner is a smaller hunk of meat.
What's so complicated? I don't know how people figure this out. Well, what about, is that hard with your family? Is it hard to?
So my boyfriend isn't even keto. So, I'm just really used to, we live together, and I'm really used to kind of having, not like cooking two separate meals, but, I'll make meat and he'll bake a potato. I'll make, and that was our pattern when I was keto too. And so it's not really a thing. He just looks at me confused every once in a while and asks what I'm doing now. But it's not an issue. And, it's interesting, even keto, when I was a carb eater, he likes, he'd have a package of candy and I would eat it and then replace it. So he didn't know that I ate his candy, because I was a binge eater. So if you leave things like that around, I'm going to eat them. But since I went keto, I never had an issue with eating any non-keto food in my house. Um, Carnivore I find a little more challenging because I like getting creative and I like baking, and it feels sort of like I can't do some of the things that I love, that I used to be able to do when I was keto. So I am experiencing a little bit of that feeling like, and one of the things, but that's really awesome for me is I get a chance to experience something that I hear my clients and students say a lot, right? When they go keto, they're like, this is really hard. I have these cravings. I want these other things. And when I went keto, I never had any of that because I could make a mug cake. I could do a thing. So I never felt the slightest bit deprived when I went keto. Now that I'm carnivore, I am experiencing some of those emotions where I want something else. I want to create something. I want to make something else. I want a sweet taste. Now I'm getting to experience some of those limitations.
Well, it's important to have both feelings, but now are they real cravings, or is it just like because
It's my brain.
You just like baking and the creativity too?
Yeah, I miss the creativity aspect, and it's part of my job. I mean, honestly, and and I like sweet things. I like them and I want to experience them. It's not like the kind of craving you get when you're hungry and you need a steak.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I do kind of is make some stuff for like family occasions and stuff. And I mean, if I want to eat a keto cheesecake on my birthday, like I'm okay with that. Like, because I'm looking at this as a long-term lifestyle. Like I'm not, and I mean, I want to keep it to really, defined occasions or something. But my birthday's at Christmas, so it's not on Christmas, but it's right before Christmas. And so it's like, if I want to have something on my birthday and if I want to have a little thing on Christmas, as long as it doesn't stretch into, but it's going to be like one piece of keto cheesecake. It's not going to be like I'm in the closet with like a giant, thing of, Haagen-Dazs or something. So, which would be normal. I mean, from when I was younger, but, so I feel like I have to give myself permission, and then that makes me, feel normal on the rest of the time,
Yeah, and quite honestly, the few times over the course of the last couple months when I've been carnivore, that I've taken a pause, like for a morning, like I make sure it's not a whole day, but like a morning to like make a recipe for this, to take a picture and whatever, and I won't eat the whole recipe, but I might taste it to make sure I made it right, so that when I'm writing it down, I've got the writing, I didn't forget something. And I find that later that day, I'm very happy to go back to steak. I'm not feeling like looking forward to straying again, but then, I'm a bit of a rebel. And so if I constrain myself super hard, sometimes I feel like my brain kind of takes over and is like, we should make a blah, blah, blah. And it'll start like inventing very complex keto recipes. And I'm like, I don't need, what am I? But it sometimes it decides to hijack me.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm a food blogger too. So it's like, yeah, you have this constant stream of ideas, and I even still think of keto recipes like, oh, the other day I wanted to make like a poke bowl with cauliflower rice and something, and it's like, but I don't want to eat it, but I just want to make it and like take a picture of it, because it's pretty. It has like green. I was gonna make like a green sauce or something.
Green is sort of sadly lacking in the carnivore.
Yeah, but it's not that I actually wanted that. Like, I mean, sashimi sounds good, but I mean, of course you can have that.
But I mean, for me, when I eat vegetables, I don't feel as good. Like I am fully aware of that. And that's why I mentioned a little earlier, that my keto for the past couple months has looked almost carnivore. It's like carnivore adjacent, because that's the way I feel best. And so if I eat big salads, which I adore, My stomach hurts. Like I just don't feel, I feel draggy and my bloaty and my stomach hurts. And so, just there are a lot of signs that lead me to the fact that my body wants me to not consume those things.
Well, and it's hard in San Francisco because everything is like a salad and it's all like everything's like almost vegan and everybody's like, "Oh, salads are like God," and you know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the good news is like I live in Berkeley, which is across the bridge from San Francisco, and although most people think of Berkeley as a very vegan city, and we certainly have a lot of vegan restaurants, it is actually a fairly paleo place as well. And so, like, there's a butcher shop about less than a mile from here where I live. It's called the Local Butcher Shop. And it is funny though, the vegans did protest them for a while. They came up with an agreement that the butcher shop would put a sign up in their window that basically says that eating meat is not considered ethical by some groups. So that was their like compromise. And so it's interesting. I saw the sign, I was like, what's that about? Anyway, it's called the Local Butcher Shop, and it only sources meat from like 100 miles or maybe 150. And it's all grass fed. And so it's, and they've got all these different cuts of meat. And so there's a really good source for me to get meat. And, you can always get a steak or a hamburger somewhere.
Oh yeah. I mean, but do you think that that's a crucial element? I mean, that you have to have that, or do you think it's just
like a grass fed thing, or? I think there's better and best. There's a lot of disagreement. I'm friends with Peter Ballerstad, who is Grass-Based Health. Is that it? I think that's his tag. He's an agronomist, and he really breaks down the difference between grass-fed, grain finished, and the reality is that almost all ruminants in the United States, at least, are grass-based for at least most of their life. And some are just grain finished. And he really broke down, I mean, one of the big arguments people will make is omega-3 versus omega-6 levels. And, really broke down that if you occasionally eat chicken or pork, then you just can't really argue that argument anymore because the ratios on chicken and pork are so different than grass-fed beef. And do I think grass-fed has a slight advantage over grain? Probably. Do I think it's the most crucial detail and you'll fail if you get this one thing wrong? No, not at all.
What worries me sometimes is people saying, well, that they have to get all this grass-fed meat before they can even start or something. And I'm like, that's, don't let it be a barrier to entry. Like, you can always work on it over time, or, learn where your local butcher shop is and things like that. I mean, but you're still going to be better off eating grain-fed beef than no beef or being a vegan. Or
think that if your diet consisted exclusively of like McDonald's hamburger patties and, cheap ground beef and just, if you're on a tight budget, getting the cheapest high-fat ground meat at the grocery store, I think your health is gonna be much better off than if you were a vegan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, I eat a lot of grass-fed beef, but it's mostly ground beef because that's the cheapest thing. And then, I eat also ribeyes that are from, wherever because they're so good.
Yeah, and I have to admit a slight taste preference for a grain finished ribeye because you get a lot more fat in it. And so, I'm not going to deny that I enjoy that.
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're going to spend, ribeyes are expensive already, so I don't want to pay double the price for and then get and then be disappointed,
Right. Yeah. I forgot to mention, I also like skirt steak and flap steak. I've been getting into those recently.
No, do you marinate those or anything?
No, I'm really trying to stay away from, although my broccoli beef recipe from my cookbook is a marinated flap steak. But when I'm doing it these days, as far as I'll go is I have some like seasoning salt from Redmond's Real Salt. So it's got like a few spices in it. I'll do that, but I try not to do marinades or things like that too much for me right now.
Yeah, well, when you're trying to lower your inflammation and all that. And now, did you ever do like an AIP diet or anything? And
I didn't. I've looked at them. I actually have, looked at them a lot. I did do sort of loose paleo years ago, but I'm sure the issue I have with AIP is it includes things that I just know aren't good for me. Like I just can't eat anyway. So I never really bother. By the time I sort of started dabbling with AIP, I was already sort of on the path of knowing what worked for me and didn't.
Yeah. Well, I feel like with AIP, I mean, when you tell me I can eat as much fruit as I want, I'm just like, I'm a mess, It's like, that's all I'll eat. Okay. Like, that's a great idea.
By the time I found AIP, I had realized how important carbohydrate restriction was to my general health and well-being. And at that point, I was like, well, okay.
And also this, I feel like with carnivore, it's so much more simple. You don't have to worry about, if there is a spice, I feel like it's less problematic than if, there's a spice like in AIP, you felt like, okay, well, I just had some paprika, so I have to start over. I have to give up, because I had one spice that's not on the list, and it's like, it was daunting for me to worry about, like, you had to basically put all your old spices away, then only have the like 5 that you can have. And so then you're just trying to figure out how to make it taste good with that. And it was so complicated. I just got so like stressed out about it that I feel like my health actually got worse.
Yeah, I mean, and I think ultimately, if you remove the fruit and some of the vegetables that may be problematic, do we know that this particular spice is really so impactful in that arena versus this other arena?
Oh, that's interesting, because people just swear by the one, the nightshades or whatever. And it's like, well, like when you had 9 servings of kale that day, maybe that was part of it, because I was just, especially people have written me, they're carnivore now, but they were doing the juicing and even the what's that guy, the celery guy.
Oh, the celery. People love celery. I can't eat.
So it's like, they're like, don't you believe in it's medical medium, don't you? And then,
yeah.
But then there's some of the things, some of the things he says are like, and it is along the lines of an anti-inflammatory diet, which is probably why they feel better. It's not the celery, if they're not eating gluten, they're not eating dairy, then.
Right. Honestly, quite a number of people, when they first go on a vegan diet, feel better because they've cut out a lot of processed food. They've cut out a lot of sources of, they maybe have cut out wheat and things like that, because the wheat was being used in bread, which was used with eggs and dairy. And so because they're going on such a strict diet, a lot of the sort of crapola, is removed, and they might feel better until they run out of essential nutrients. So, I know quite a number of, and you see it on Sean Baker's page and, other people that, they went vegan, things were going great for a while, and then like the train came off the tracks and their health fell apart. Ultimately, because I don't believe that a vegan diet includes the sort of things that you are required for a healthy, functional body. And so, but your body is an amazing thing and can go, a lot of those fat soluble vitamins will continue to fuel you for months after you stop taking them, intaking. I don't mean like taking a vitamin, but, including those foods in your diet. So, but then at some point the wheels will come off.
Yeah, like that's what happened to me. So, and it was crushing and fast. Well, it felt fast, but it was probably 10 years in the making or whatever.
How long were you vegan?
I wasn't a vegan, but I was a vegetarian for only really about a year. But I mean, I was on a very, very low fat diet for about 10 years before that. And so the combination of those two, and also I was running marathons and eating tons and tons of tofu. And so I think just it was like this, perfect storm of malnutrition and stress. So I was going to ask you, so where do you see yourself going with carnivore now? And
I mean, I ultimately am still somewhat of a reluctant carnivore. We'll see if it changes over. Ultimately, if I could maintain great I just try to keep it really real, Caitlin. Like I tell people what I actually think. If I could maintain the weight within reason that I'd like to and show lowered inflammation, I would prefer to be keto than carnivore. It's just what I prefer. However, that is not seemingly to be the case at this time. And so for me, I really feel like carnivore right now is my best hope for handling some of the health issues that are coming up in my life. I also feel better, like mentally, physically, than even I do on keto, with the exception of being irritated that I can't have the things that my brain tells me I want to have. So I feel like I'm definitely on a carnivore journey right now, and to see where exactly I end up in, in terms of the fringes, like spices and flavored waters, like those little details, where will those end up? I'm not 100% sure. I know I'm on a journey, but I don't feel like my journey with carnivore is over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're feeling good with your mood and everything is up, and your inflammation is down, then I mean, have you done any lab work to show anything?
I have. Yeah, that's why I was sort of like, maybe we should do this interview later, but I haven't gone back in for lab work because I wanted it to be fully 2 months off of dairy before I retested, because a lot of people will say a month is enough. I think a month is enough to see certain things, but I recently was reading something about Peter Attia, and he was saying that if somebody's CRP is higher than they'd like and there's no specific cause, which is what it is for me, and he has them be dairy free for 2 months, because sometimes it can take a little more time to shake out. So I have been waiting for the 2 month mark, which will be in a few weeks.
Oh, that's great. I mean, I think so many people, they give it 2 weeks and then they're like, I feel terrible. It's like, well, you're right in the middle of it. You're right in the worst part. You got to at least go for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I mean, to realize if it's good enough if it's going to be something you can sustain or not, I mean,
first 2 weeks off dairy, everyone in my life hated me because I was a terrible witch, because I was grumpy.
Yeah. I mean, that could be for sure. I mean, if people are so crazy about their coffee and their cream, and taking that away from them is, and I think the thing with carnivore for me, I feel like, well, there's so much room to do that meat and water. If it stops working for me at this stage, I can continue to cut things, and then if I really want to, and then I can add them back again. But I feel so much better than I did, because I was such a sweet tooth addict. Like, I could not handle having a little bit of stevia every day or a little bit of erythritol. I just couldn't handle it. So it's much better for me. Like, it's the first time in my life I've gotten over the sweet tooth for months at a time, which is amazing for me, and I don't crave it. Now, like I said, if it's a very special occasion, I will eat something just because I want to feel happy. I feel like, that's part of being a normal person, because food is fun too. It's not just sustenance. Yeah. It's celebrating and, being with your family and all that kind of stuff. So, well, that's so great that you are open to trying new things and keep refining it to figure out what works best for you. And, what would you tell somebody who's new and maybe wants to try it and,
I would probably say, and this is what's funny when you were like, what do you eat? I was like, I don't know what's in my fridge. Like, it's almost hard for me to remember because it's just food. So I think for somebody that's new, one of the things I would say is, which meats you like. What kind of meat sources make you happy and you enjoy eating. I would say cook a bunch of them. Cook a few steaks, cook some bunless just the burger patty. Cook some bacon, just cook a bunch of stuff on a Sunday or on a whatever day that you've got time. And then from that point forward, make a commit. So I would say make a 30-day commitment to it. I think a 30-day commitment is doable. Don't think and never have this thought. I think this is a terrible thought. I'll never have XYZ again. It totally is a problem. Think it's just 30 days. I'm just doing this for 30 days. And you'll find over those 30 days whether you want to continue or not. And so cook a bunch of meat that you like. I wouldn't worry initially too much about, is it beef? Is it this? Is that? I feel fuller and better with beef. I think I don't feel that full or great with chicken, but you hopefully as a human out there in the world. And so cook a bunch of these things. When you're hungry, have meat. When you're not hungry, have water. And I do think for most people, including things like flavored seltzer waters are totally fine. I don't suggest including things like Zevia with sweetener because it'll throw you off. I think, for me, initially, if the first couple of weeks you want to continue to have a splash of cream in your coffee, it might be what's required for a transitional period. You can then look at if cream is working for you or not. But I would say, coffee in your cream in small doses should be fine for most people, unless you're a hard case like I am. And then eat meat when you're hungry. I wouldn't worry too much about some dry spices being involved in your meat initially, but you definitely need to get enough salt. One of the things I do think people do experience is, if you're going from keto to carnivore, you don't expect to have electrolyte issues again, but a lot of people do.
It's way worse.
So make sure you're prepared with non-sweetened ways to supplement your electrolytes. There are drops you can get that are unsweetened. You can just add more salt. You might need a magnesium or a potassium supplement for a short period of time. That shouldn't persist, though. That's just transitional. The salt I would continue to use.
Yeah.
There's a whole debate also around like nose to tail. Do you have to eat organs? Blah, blah, blah. And if you're new, I say don't worry about it that first month. Do not even begin to worry about it. You'll be fine. A month of steak and ground beef is not a problem. You can cross that bridge when you get to it.
Absolutely. I mean, and people are worried about the ratios of fat to protein.
Right. And actually, I was like, oh, I'm going to do an experiment with different ratios. And as of yet, I have not managed to settle into that because just eat meat when you're hungry is a lot easier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people overthink it at the beginning and then they don't ever get started sometimes. So don't let that be the big thing. So where can people find all your books and your work and everything?
So my website is theketonist.com. If you can't remember that, kimhowerton.com, same place. And all my social media is at the Ketonist, TheKetonist.
Awesome. Well, it's been really fun talking to you, Kim, and getting to know you a little bit better. So I'll see you soon when you come to Nashville.
Yeah, I'll see you in Nashville.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.